You were involved in a 911 call that involved two people that you knew in a helicopter crash.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty big deal
Mm-hmm.
when a rescue bird goes down.
Yes.
Can you walk us through that story?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear this.
Yeah. So, Bluebird Day in February, we get a 911 call up on Togety for a snowmobiler who needed, I think it was a heart attack, was how the call initially had come in. He'd had a heart attack and hit a tree. So, based on the weather, it was far better to send a helicopter up there.
Okay.
As opposed to ground, because it was going to take well over an hour to get an ambulance up there. Whereas a helicopter, we could have them up there in 20 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
So helicopter, they organize, they tell us who's on board, and I know two of them. And then I know the pilot, and then I know the paramedic on board, and then they had also had a search and rescue member on board. So they head out, and we have a system called AFF, Air Flight Follower.
Okay.
Where you could follow them. So you got their tail number in there. You can see where they are. You can track them. It'll update. It'll give you color codes for, good contact, bad contact, that sort of thing. So they're heading up there, and we're just kind of doing our thing. And they say, hey, we think that we see the party. We're going to go ahead and touch down. And I was like, okay. So they touch down. And then the next thing I know, I get this bad feeling. And I'm like, this is weird, and I kind of push it aside. I'm like, everything's fine. This is weird. And
is it just a weird gut feeling?
It's just a weird gut feeling.
Okay.
And I end up, a couple minutes goes by, and I end up pulling up the AFF system, and I was like, they're not there. I was like, I don't like this. So I tell my coworker, I said, you need to call search and rescue. Tell them to get a ground crew moving. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't like this. I don't see them. We need to get people headed up regardless. I was like, they're an hour and a half out. Get them on the road. She's like, based on what? I was like, I don't know, but you need to do this. So she calls him. As she is on the phone with them, 911 rings. And because she's on the phone, it automatically reverted to me. So I pick up the 911. This guy goes, hey, yeah, I think your helicopter just crashed. And my world froze.
That's how this dude...
That's how it went. It's exactly what he said. And I got this feeling in my chest. I was like, okay, this is what I do. I got this, right? So I said, how do you know it crashed? Hoping he was wrong. And he was like, well, it disappeared behind the ridge. And I said, did it go into a tailspin? Did you hear the engine wind down? Did you hear it immediately stop? Like, give me more details. What are we up against here? And he was like, I don't know. I think he crashed. He kind of whipped to the side. I think he crashed. I said, got it. So immediately I sound the alarm. So our supervisor at the time, her previous experience, she was a air traffic controller at the airport. So I text her. She'd been in a meeting. I said, SAR heli just went down. And she said, be right there. So at this time, I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I find them? Where did the helicopter crash? Who am I sending? How do I get them there? Obviously, I need search and rescue. I need those guys to go in on snowmobiles. Do I need ambulances right now? Did they survive? What am I going to do about the snowmobiler now?
There's no Mayday call, anything?
Nothing. All radio silence. And I don't have them on my system. Like, I don't have them in air flight.
Just they're off the grid right now.
Gone. Just gone.
So now you have to try to find where do you know where the rescue party was, or the victim, right? Mm-hmm. So are you sending people just in grids to that direction?
Well, we had a long time before we even got to that point. We needed people to head north, and then we could figure that out. Okay. The most important part was to get people going. Yeah. Details to come.
Okay.
That
happen a lot out there? Because of just how large of a vast area that they're covering, you start heading people out?
Yeah. Okay. You got a bare minimum that you'll send out. Okay. And then as you get more details, you start, building onto that response. Okay. So a little bit of time goes by, and Still nothing. I don't have their location. We've got people still heading north. Nobody's really up there yet. We know their last location because they had told me where they were touching down, but I have no idea how far they went from there. You know, I don't know what ridge they went over. That guy, he was visiting. He couldn't tell me if it was north, south, east, west. Nothing. So we had basically a focal point, and from there it was anybody's guess. We ended up getting, I think that we had 7 total fixed wings and other helicopters that ended up being in the area that could respond and help look. Nobody could see anything. There was no wreckage. There was no sign. Nobody could tell. There was no broken trees. There was nothing.
This
Nobody could
helicopter
see
just
anything.
vanished. Gone.
So then I get a Mayday call over the radio. And I said, I copy your Mayday. What is your location? Most important thing, what is your location? And he came back and he said, I don't have my coordinates. And I said, we're looking for you. Do you see any planes or helicopters overhead? And I tried getting something. He was like, well, somebody just flew over. And this kind of goes back and forth for a very long time. So
what's a very long time?
It was hours. It was dark. It was just about dark before we had the first person over to our guys.
And what time did this start?
Oh, I want to say around 10 a.m. if memory serves me right.
I mean, granted, it's wintertime, so the sun's setting a little earlier. So
yeah, sunset's around 4 or so.
That's a long day.
It was a long day.
And nobody's eyes on this crash bird yet?
Nope.
Really?
So where they had crashed, it was in a group of trees, and the trees completely covered them. They had gone through the trees. The wreckage was right underneath the trees, and nobody from overhead could see them.
No smoke, nothing.
Nothing. There was nothing.
Damn.
I felt so helpless.
And you're on for this whole entire shift. This is what you're dealing with. How many hours?
I think I ended up working 14 that day. And then from there, I went straight to the firehouse because we had a briefing. One of the guys on, the paramedic that was on, was obviously on the fire department. So everybody at the fire department came by for a briefing later that evening. But
how did they end up finding them?
So Togedy Mountain Lodge has some fantastic guides that help anytime it's asked. They knew the situation. They threw some guides out there, and then randomly, one of our firefighters, who was also a nerd, he carried a radio with him, and he started seeing the planes flying. He was out riding up there by himself, just on his own. He saw the planes, turned on his radio, and sat there for a while, and then heard the radio transmission and figured it out that we had a helicopter down. So he was like, I'm going to find him. And he did.
What?
It was in the dark. He rolls up. He started circling like kind of the area that they were in. He was able to like see where the planes are, listen to the radio traffic, see where the planes are, listen to the radio traffic. Ended up finding him. And as he rolled up, he looked at the paramedic that we had up there, and he was like, hey, what do you guys need? Like, and he was just this, he's the guy like you want on a bad day because he's smart. He always, he never loses his shit. He was resourceful. Like in the backcountry, he's probably the biggest blessing you could ever.
Fuck, clearly.
Yeah. So he found him. He rolled up and was like, what do you guys need? So after that, he got them set up with a fire, started getting them warmed up and everything like that. By this time, the search and rescue member had already died. So he was helping the other two and trying to get them warm. And he said, now I know where you guys are. There's other people like looking for you. I'm going to go get them. And he got them, ended up bringing everybody in. The pilot ended up flying to the hospital in another helicopter in true pilot form. Yeah. And the paramedic refused to get in another helicopter. And he rode back to the hospital in an ambulance that my mom was on.
Interesting. What did the other guy end up passing from? What did he get crushed?
Internal injuries. Yeah. Damn. It was a hard hit. He was alive, and the paramedic stayed back, tried to save him, gave him fluids. did what he could, but
Never ended up making it, huh? Did you know him?
I did not know the search and rescue member.
You knew the pilot?
I knew the pilot. I knew the paramedic. I carried a lot of guilt a long time because when I heard that it wasn't one of the two people I knew, I was like, oh, thank God. Even though I was still upset that somebody died.
So
I felt guilty. Yeah.